Hey guys!
Welcome back.
Today we have another special guest on our show. It's Josh Riggs. Why don't you give yourself a bio?
Yeah, I'm a senior public relations major at Mississippi State, and I'm just very excited to be here. I've been wanting to do a podcast, and you guys already have one. So it worked out well for me.
Yeah, it works out.
So today Josh is going to tell us about some mental health bills that he's trying to pass. Or is it a mental health bill?
It was a mental health bill, and we passed it through the Student Senate. It's going on to the Faculty Senate.
Okay, awesome. So why don't you just give us a little breakdown of how the idea came to be for a mental health bill?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were sitting in, I believe it was PR production, and we kind of had a smaller class. It was about 10 or 12 of us. And we had Anna Blunt, love Anna Blunt, great Anna Blunt. And we were just kind of working on projects, and somebody in there was just said out loud to the class, you know, like, I'm exhausted. It was probably October-ish of last year, early October, and we all kind of agreed. We were like, man, yeah, we are too, and just started talking about what was going on in our lives. And it was really interesting because everybody kind of had the same agreeance, like, we wish there was a way that we could do this. And then somebody in there said, you know, I think that actually faculty has something similar to that, where they can kind of take certain days off as personal days. Why don't students have something like that? And so the idea poked around in my head for a few days. I'd been looking for some legislation to pass in the Student Association Senate. And I went to a few friends of mine, Vice President Kennedy Guest, and ultimately they all thought it was a great idea. We all went to administration. We discussed with administration kind of how they would see it actually working, right? Because the original idea was maybe a little too ambitious, and you kind of have to bring it back to reality a little bit. And ultimately what we ended up on was a mental health bill that would give students one mental health day per semester that they'd be able to use at their discretion. And with that being said, you know, there of course would be rules if it was on a test day or on a group project day, something like that. Obviously there'd be other rules that has to go into it, but it ultimately passed the Student Senate after some discussion and debate. And right now we're looking forward to taking it to Faculty Senate at some point in this semester.
Yeah, that's really awesome. What is your role in Student Senate?
So I'm the Office of the Provost Senator. I help pass legislation. I am also on the Oversight Committee, and what we do is we essentially just kind of, you know, watch and make sure nothing's being done that is not correct. You know, if somebody's breaking rules or going against the Constitution, we kind of have the power to investigate that. And ultimately that's kind of what I've been working on. It's a brand new committee that was started this year, and we haven't had a ton of work to do yet, but you know, with elections coming up, that's probably going to be a big time for us.
Yeah. With your first draft of the mental health bill, what made it too ambitious to pass?
And of course I have to really think back on this. The original version, I think, that we all floated around was 3 to 5 days. And the reasoning, exactly. The idea of why we said 3 to 5 was a lot of school districts, not colleges, but high schools in several other states were allowing students 3 to 5 per semester or per 3 months. And we kind of looked at that and we were like, well, you know, if they can have 3 to 5 per semester, we can probably get 3 per semester.
Yeah, I feel like that's not too ambitious. 3 is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, you know, yeah, but ultimately then you get into a discussion of how are you gonna track that? You know, a student could tell one teacher, hey, this is my mental health day, I'm taking it, and then he could use that same excuse another time. And like when it got into the tracking, if you have multiple days, it would just be very, very difficult. It'd be really, really hard to keep track of all of that and do it in a way that essentially uses it for the purpose that it's meant to be used, and it's not just becoming a way for people to play Ferris Bueller and go have fun off class. So that's why we ultimately took it down to 1, and the idea was that we would start with 1, and in a few years, if it seemed like it was being used correctly, there would be a discussion where it could go to 2 or 3, maybe. That was never guaranteed, but that was just kind of the idea of, hey, we'll take it down to 1. That'll make it easier for faculty and administration to probably agree to. And ultimately, that's what this is meant for. It's meant for people who are having a difficulty or a mental health crisis in a moment, and it gives them the ability to go seek help without having the fear of, oh, I'm going to miss these assignments that day.
Do any other universities have this same policy?
The Ivy League has similar policies, and this was another big kind of debate that happened within the Senate, was that very same question. Like, a thing that usually happens when bills get passed, the first question most people ask are, what other SEC schools do this? And typically, the reason why that's asked, it's a good question to ask. The reason why they ask that is, okay, if another SEC school passed it, we can probably get it passed.
Right.
Because ultimately that means somebody else has already taken that step. It's an issue that affects multiple schools.
It makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. For us, the ones who wrote the bill, myself, Chris Green, and Olivia Radiccioni, we looked at it kind of in the backwards way, where we said, hey, look, we know this is an issue. I mean, we have the numbers to kind of back it up. The spikes that have happened in mental health within students since before COVID and then during COVID and right now. And we want to kind of be the trailblazers on this. If we pass this, other schools may see it and go, we were thinking the same thing. Why hasn't an SEC school passed that yet? And then they see us pass it, and suddenly other people pass it. And we wanted to be the trailblazers ultimately on this. We didn't want it to die just because another SEC school hasn't done it. But yes, to answer your question, it really has only been done in the Ivy League at the university level. With high schools and school districts, they've been allowing it 3 to 5 typically per 3 months or per semester.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to be kind of a trailblazer here in that sort of
We'd love
policy.
to see it.
Yeah, hopefully so. So with having the 1-day mental health policy, how did it ultimately come down to maybe 1 day instead of 2 days? Was it just because it would be too easy to find discrepancies?
Yeah, so again, it was kind of looked at for a couple different reasons to go down to 1 instead of 2. Because I think we ultimately, we tried to, it started at 3 to 5, then ultimately we kind of went down to 2, and then we went down to 1. And the reason being that, again, when you're looking at the way on how it's going to be tracked, and I can't super get into the details of that because it of course would be a faculty administration thing. They would make the final ruling, and it may change from how it would be right now. But there's going to have to be a system where you're going to go to that system and say, hey, I've taken my mental health day.
Okay.
And, if you go to a doctor, of course, they'd want to know that you had that kind of thing happen. So with that, it was going to be kind of difficult with 2 different days, because then you're having to contact a ton of different teachers, and they're all having to get these emails, and they're going to have to go back and ultimately help you with that work. And that also kind of plays into it too, is, when teachers get that notification that, hey, that was your mental health day, they're kind of the way we envisioned on how it would be was that you would go to your teacher and get your work and do all of that. It wouldn't be a situation where you could say, like, aha, I missed. All right, teacher, give me everything. Like, I want you to do all the work for me. Like, no, you're going to have to meet your teacher halfway in that.
What research have you guys found that shows that having a mental health day per semester boosts students' mood?
So not necessarily that it boosts students' mood, because nothing has really been done like this. The only thing that's similar, and it was actually brought up by another senator when we were passing the bill, was last year Auburn this semester did what they called wellness days, and they had 3 to 5 strategically planned days throughout the semester. That kind of, because of the time frame, could have also been considered to be like a spring break split up. But they called them wellness days, and it was a good idea, and somebody brought it up as, hey, this could be another way this bill could work. Ultimately, though, the issue with that was going to be that, if somebody has a mental health crisis today, they can't plan that 2 weeks from now. They can't plan that 3 weeks from now when that day would be. They need that day when they need that day, and everybody's going to need it on a different day.
Right.
So that's why that couldn't work. But the statistics that we had was that adult anxiety and depression rates surged from 11% in January, June 2019 to 41.1% in January 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it really is shocking. 95% of college students have experienced negative mental health symptoms as a result of the COVID-19 related circumstances. And this is coming from the actual bill we wrote. I have it right here.
Yeah, so it goes to Faculty Senate next, and then if they pass it, it's officially passed?
If Faculty Senate passes it, to my understanding, and that would kind of be a follow-up question for Vice President Guest, because he's kind of been the main head on it with the faculty side of things. If it gets passed through the Faculty Senate, then it will go into how we kind of operate. So our operations manual and how those days happen, because it would ultimately go into the absence policy.
Okay. And so is this applicable for any student?
Yes, it would be applicable for any student.
Okay. I don't really have anything else, unless you want to just add some extra information right now.
I mean, that's all I can say right now, but I can also say that Mississippi State obviously is pushing forward on this issue. I know that I was asked to be on this new mental health committee that the administration's created, and they're really trying to solve solutions. Obviously, I can't talk about what we talk about in the meetings because those things haven't been decided yet, and that's the powers that be that are above me. But being on that committee, I can tell you that the school itself is very, very committed to this issue. They've come out to the Student Association and said, hey, look, we want students' help in figuring out how to deal with this. This is a serious issue. We see it. We recognize it. We're not trying to ignore it. We're not going to ignore it. We want to try to come up with solutions, and that's what we're working on right now.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And that even goes back to our first episode, the pilot, when we talked about MSU making changes based on students' requests. And this is one of those things that MSU is making changes on based on our requests, based on our needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even when we went to the Big Dog Summit, there was this past semester, and a lot of the things that we discussed ended up being mental health. That was the top issue that everybody wanted more resources and assistance for. So I think it's great, the initiative y'all are taking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, last semester, right around that same time, the counseling center on campus was three months behind.
Right.
So, if you asked for a meeting, you weren't going to get it until January.
Yeah.
And that's, that shows how flooded we've become, especially during the COVID era of college, where people are needing these resources. And ultimately, hopefully we can get that quickly as soon as possible out to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any sort of timeline, or is it just as soon as it gets to it?
The hope is to get it past this semester.
Okay.
And so once it gets past this semester, it would go into the operating guide for next year.
Okay.
That's nice.
Nice. Well, that was all with our segment with Josh. He's going to continue to stay on the show as our guests do. Now we're moving into story updates. Again, we have a packed roster for story updates.
Lots of things are happening.
Yes, they are all unfolding. So as for redistricting, obviously all counties were pretty much affected by the district lines being redrawn. So Octavia Hall County in specific is redrawing its bordering lines because our population increased by about 4,000 residents since the last census in 2010. And of course, populations don't disperse evenly, so the lines are going to be redrawn. That goes back to our discussion. We were like, you can't just tell people to move somewhere else so your lines can be redrawn. Yeah, so they are having actually a city hall meeting assembly where anybody can come and give their suggestions. So we'll have an article linked down below if you're interested in taking part of community activism. Next up, we have another medical marijuana update.
This is going to keep on coming, guys.
This is our number one story update.
Gosh.
So the Mississippi Senate passed the medical marijuana bill 2095, and they voted on it 46-4. And the bill now goes to Governor Tate Reeves' desk, where he will sign or veto it. It's taken so long to get to this point.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I thought he was already supposed to even get it. So they're probably just...
Well, they had to send it back to the Senate because the House made the guidelines a little bit differently.
Of course they did.
So they had to re-sign on it.
It's also crazy to me, though, how many times this bill now has been voted on,
Oh, I know.
both by the population of Mississippi, the citizens of Mississippi, and our representatives.
Yeah. So one of the big changes now that the Senate just signed off on and voted on was that patients can have 3 ounces of marijuana a month. Initiative 65 initially had 5 ounces a month, and then the other draft of the bill that we initially talked about in the ballot was up to 4 ounces in a month. So that was the main discrepancy that Governor Reeves was really concerned about, and that just members of the House and Senate kind of were fluctuating on how much to give people per month.
Yeah, he made that very clear.
Yeah, he definitely did. to go along with medical marijuana, Raymond is getting a medical marijuana growing warehouse. It's going to be called Mockingbird, and it will employ 150 to 200 people. So if you need a job, there you go. And lastly, I'm sure everyone knows about this unless you live under a rock, but Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer retired after 20 years on the Supreme Court. And in 2020, Biden promised to appoint a black woman to be a Supreme Court justice if someone retires while he is president. And so everyone is kind of looking to see if he upholds his promise. NPR has two leading choices that are supposedly Biden's top picks, and that's federal judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and she was on President Obama's list of potential justices back in 2016, but Obama did not get to pick a justice that year. And then there's also California Supreme Court Justice Leandra Kruger, who served as assistant and then deputy solicitor general in both Democratic and Republican administrations. And of course, this is historic because a black woman has never been a Supreme Court justice.
We love to see it.
And I think the update on that comes around February 5th, so we will have another update on the update.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Now we have the ones that got away. Honestly, the ones that got away are my favorite and least favorite segment because it hurts for personal reasons, right? So this week we had two stories that just got away. And if you don't know what that is, it's what didn't make the paper this week.
Yeah.
So the stories I couldn't fit in my news section / they just got away. So first I'm on Nextdoor, which is a little neighbors app, and I just like to...
It's where she can be nosy.
Yeah, it's where I can be a nosy news editor, and I saw a lot of people complaining about the increase in Max South prices, the internet prices, and I was just wondering why they have an increase every year. Also, Max South has a monopoly on Starkville. You know,
like they do. I have them briefly.
Yeah, I have them now. Hardly anybody has anything besides Max South, so I wanted to answer these questions.
And I think they do my internet too.
Yeah,
so.
They do mine.
Wild.
They definitely, I hardly hear of anybody having anything besides Max South.
No,
so I just wanted to have some clarification on that, get a little bit of knowledge, but we could never get into contact with the actual Max South people. So there's that. And then also Templeton Dining Hall is closed until the fall 2022. I'm sure a lot of people knew about that, but maybe a lot of people didn't know why. I didn't know why. And I guess we're not going to know why because that fell through.
They won't tell us.
They won't tell us.
I was about to say, why?
I
was really concerned. I've never been there, but why?
Right?
Your secrets.
Yeah, we don't know why. Sorry, cliffhanger.
Yeah, I guess we'll see when we see. They'll keep them. Next up is Emma's Opinion Corner. Yay! So, my hot take this week is a little controversial. And I really just wanted to say it because this is just what I believe, but I actually needed, reasons to say why I'm right, but... Wow. So my hot take is... I gotta roll up the sleeves. Soccer is more difficult than football.
Wow.
I just think it is, but here's why. So this is just a note that most professional athletes play multiple sports growing up, so obviously they can probably play both sports. But the reason why I say that it is harder is because it's harder to score in soccer, number one. Usually you have a lower scoring game, naturally because of just how the points are done, but also it's just harder to get in there. There's a goalkeeper literally covering the goal, so you can't get into it. For football, yes, they have people guarding the space, but a lot of it's more open, and you can also score in two different ways. By running in to get a touchdown, and also kicking a field goal. For that, we can't just get stuff for kicking it in the general direction. It's like...
You tried!
A good job! You kicked it over the, net. Congratulations, you don't get anything for it. Oh, you ran to the other end of the field. Sucks to suck. So... I think that's just one reason. Also, you don't get subbed out like every other play. For them, they have offensive lines and defensive lines. They get subbed in and out for different stuff. So you have to be in better shape to run up and down the soccer field a million times. Believe me, I know. I used to be a midfielder, which is a pain. Also, you have to be more skilled with the ball. For my thing, most of the time, you have better dexterity with your hands. It's harder to be more dexterous with your feet.
Yes, it is.
Actually, yeah.
I won't say I'm always great at it because I trip over my feet sometimes, but...
I would love a blooper reel of that.
Yeah, and you have to be able to trap stuff with most of your body. The only thing we can't touch it with is our hands. So try trap it. Yeah, you gotta do it on your chest, everywhere. It's hard, man. And then my last point is that soccer players have to make decisions on their own all throughout the game. We don't have usually set plays that we'd have for things unless you're doing a set kick. So you kind of just have to be able to read the game better and actually do it instead of a coach just saying, oh, do that play, and this is how you run for it. No, you have to be able to read it and do the run based on how they're moving. So, but disclaimer, football is a little bit more demanding just physically because you get rammed by very tall and wide men, but yeah.
What are your thoughts on the hot take, Josh?
You know, I actually can speak as a former amateur soccer player for most of my life. I think I probably played from when I was like 5 to when I was about 14, 15. You actually have a couple really good points. Like, it is, you do have to play the game at a much quicker pace in the sense that you have to call your own plays and you have to constantly, also plays can go wrong so much quicker, like so much easier in soccer. I've actually had a similar debate for a long time in my own head, but it was actually that basketball is harder than football.
Basketball is so hard,
because of some of the same things. Like you have to call your own plays sometimes. You kind of have less people on the field, so you have to be more responsible with the way it's done. People don't really agree with me on that though, but who knows?
You know, I support you.
Yeah, we'll just have we'll have our hot takes together. Football is not as hard as soccer and basketball.
Boom.
That's where we'll set that.
Mic drop. What are your thoughts?
I have never played soccer. I attempted to play twice, like not actually play on a team, but play in my yard. It's hard. It's very hard,
guys.
And I played flag football once, and my team won. Although I was not playing most of the time, but I was sore the day after. It was a hard game.
Yeah, I mean, I think all sports are pretty difficult. I mean, there's probably some that aren't as bad, but like most of the main core sports, golf is hard too, man. It takes a lot of skill.
Well, at least you just stand there.
I mean, yeah, but I think every sport has its difficulties. But in this situation, I'm just saying that.
Oh yeah. Also, shout out Joe Burrow because like an hour and a half ago, he became the fastest first round pick quarterback to ever make it to the Super Bowl. As the first round pick.
See, I didn't even see that because I've been doing a bunch of stuff today.
I didn't see it. I just saw the notification and I was like, oh, well, that's cool because it's like his second year in the NFL and he just beat Patrick Mahomes. So, go Joe Burrow.
I wish I had that stat yesterday in my debate round.
Would have been nice.
It would have been nice.
She had an
argument.
argument.
Debate round? Oh,
yes, I had to say that. So the round was Kansas City Chiefs will win the Super Bowl. I had to say they wouldn't. And if I had that stat about the Bengals quarterback, because he had a bunch of stats about his quarterback, I would have been like.
You really should have just been able to say, like, it's Joe Burrow. I mean, I get Patrick Mahomes, but like, it's Joe Burrow. Man, it's just a winner.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would have helped.
That's all for that. Next up is...
Sassy!
That's all for that. Y'all are tired of hearing me
the look
ramble.
that she gave, that was so sassy.
So,
why couldn't we have had the camera roll?
I know, they would have loved that.
That would have been perfect.
So, our film review this week is actually a pretty short one, and anybody can watch this because it's not on a streaming service. So, lovely MSU people, it is called Old Main, and it is a short film put out by MSU Films.
It's only 11 minutes long.
It's not long. I was really expecting like an hour-long documentary, but
me too.
It was 11 minutes, so not very much of a time commitment. It stars a guy named Travis Clark, who attended MSU and lived in the Old Main dormitory in 1958. So, for those that don't know, which I don't know how you wouldn't at this point, there used to be an Old Main dormitory on campus, but it burnt down. And it took up a pretty good chunk. Like, most people lived there because this boy was big. Like, I don't know why I keep looking at the camera. It's not on. I just keep doing it. But yeah, this boy was big. So when it finally did come aflame, a bunch of people were like, what is happening over there? Like, they were walking on campus, like, why is it so bright over there? Some people, it, like, looked like daylight, according to somebody. I looked on a bunch of Facebook comments below, and people were recounting their experiences and stuff. And, they were like, it looked like it was daylight outside, how much brightness and illumination the flames were putting off.
Wow.
So, nobody, not many people died in this. Only one person actually did. He actually made it out before... Why do I keep
But he left his stereo in the dorm.
Yeah, but he left his stereo in the dorm and went because it was a brand new one he had just gotten.
For Christmas.
So he went back to go get it and unfortunately never made it back out.
That part was so sad. Holly and I were really sad about it. Yeah. Guess what? I actually watched the film this week, guys.
Yeah.
I took 11 minutes out of my day.
It's only 11 minutes long?
Yes.
Oh, I guess I gotta watch it now. I actually did not know that Old Main was a dormitory. Fun fact.
Yeah, so it was. The one that is currently on campus, Old Main Academic Hall, is actually modeled to be like the old dorm. So the front of it is similar to that.
Yeah.
It was huge. It was where the Union and McCool are now.
Yeah, it took up a lot of area.
It faced Perry.
Yeah. See, I didn't know. I transferred here, and I also.
Oh, see, me too.
See, this is gonna be. Oh, really? Where?
I was at Millsaps College in Jackson.
Oh, Millsaps. Shout out Millsaps. I went there a couple times. My freshman year, my best friend went to school there, and then he left, and I knew why.
A lot of people did.
Yeah, but no, I didn't know that Old Main was a dorm until recently, and it was actually Kennedy Guest, who I was talking to, who told me this, because I want to say it was his grandfather. Please don't kill me, Kennedy, if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was his grandfather. He told me the story as his grandfather was moving into Old Main, the dorm, left to go get dinner with his parents, and when he came back, it was on fire.
Oh,
and burning down.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so he his grandfather had the jacket that he was wearing that day, and he gave that jacket to Kennedy when he moved here to Iowa State. So that's how I learned that Old Main was a dorm. But everybody freaked out and got mad at me that I didn't know that.
See, I didn't know it either because I didn't get the freshman information. Same thing about.
Well, I didn't know that until I don't know. I don't even know how I came to know that.
See, nobody told me. Even my brother didn't tell me, and he's been he's in the BCS program, Building Construction Science, and so they know a lot about the architecture stuff on campus. And he didn't bother to tell me anything about that. And I was like, I'm betrayed, number one. And then he didn't tell me about the fact that I didn't know Chapel Memories, what in the world it was even for. It was it's just memories, but it was built out of old Main bricks.
I literally learned that out of this. So
yeah, it was built out of old Main bricks, and I didn't know
that. And that's so wholesome.
Yeah,
that's so touching.
So
it's a loving memorial.
Yes, it is.
I didn't know that. So the more you know. So as far as my criticism for this film,
always has a critique.
I thought it was well done, but I still think it would have been stronger had it had more witnesses in it. I know there's still people alive from that because they obviously have been commenting on Facebook about it. And so I just thought it would be stronger if you could see maybe 2 or 3 people's. They had 1. So if 2 or more people were added, I think it would help a lot with just their storytelling because you could get another angle and background from it. And just also variation. And maybe it would make it 15 minutes as opposed to 11 or 20.
11 is so random.
That's a short film. People keep talking about it like it was an hour and a half long documentary.
I know.
No, that's what we thought.
That's why I was expecting it.
We had this conversation last week. I was like, 11 minutes.
And Mississippi State hyped it up too, it was going to be long.
No, I know. I kept seeing it on their post. That's why I haven't seen it. I was like, wow, it's probably going to be an hour and a half. I have to budget time out of my day to see that because I have so many other things.
You can watch this in between classes. 11 minutes.
Now I'm going to. I'm going to have my thoughts. Anybody can go to my social media, find me. I'll put it on there for all of your Reflector listeners.
Nice. Okay, I have thoughts since I actually watched this. Okay.
We love it. Heather actually having thoughts on the film.
At 122, it shows a picture of a yearbook, and my grandfather's name is on that picture.
Is it really?
Yes, Ira Coates. Shout out to my grandfather. We call him Coach. So that was really cool and fun and fresh. I don't know if he lived in Old Main, but I should have asked, I guess, my mom. Anyway, also the doc made me really emotional. It was it was so sad.
Said, why did the doc make me so emo? Sad, sad, sad.
And also school pride. I was like, oh, we came back from the ashes. But the whole school didn't burn down. It was just one building.
State.
And I was really sad about the guy who died trying to get a stereo. That part was so sad.
I know.
It was so sad. And the Chapel of Memories is so sweet. The Chapel of Memories.
And now that I know the significance of it, it means more, I guess. But,
It's so sweet. I liked it. My sister and I definitely did. It was very sweet. I don't have any film critiques.
That was my only thing, so.
Also, I watched 2 episodes of Sex Lives of College Girls. I like it so far.
Good.
So there you go. 2 wins this week.
I'm proud of you.
I had heard about that, but I haven't actually watched it.
It's a very top-notch show.
Yeah, she reviewed it last
really?
week. It's
good.
good.
I did. Yes.
But they weed out people in that first scene. They'll be like, if you don't get past the first scene.
I know. But,
so, yeah.
It's a little worrisome. Okay.
Anyways, we'll have a link below for you to listen to the film.
Watch the film.
Well, yeah. You can listen to it too. Listen to our podcast, watch the film.
Yes.
But Yeah, I had the actual link instead of just the Facebook one. They debuted it on Facebook, but they have a link to their actual films for MSU page. So yeah, that's all for Emma's Opinion Corner.
Now moving into the crazy story of the week. This story is a little bit older, but we thought we'd bring it up because it's probably going to trial soon. So it's from December 25th. An MSU architecture or building construction science professor is suing the university for discrimination during the pandemic.
My brother actually had her for a class, so I know this woman. I heard her voice many a times in his online class.
So her name is Zara Torgabay. I should have written out the pronunciation, so sorry if I mispronounced that, but she filed a lawsuit against MSU on December 3rd, and basically she did not feel safe during the pandemic to teach in person, but she was not allowed to teach her course as an online or a hybrid course during fall of 2020 and spring of 2021, while other of her colleagues were allowed to.
Yeah, she did some stuff online, but she wasn't able to be fully online.
Yeah, so she met with the dean of building construction sciences, and she basically had a complaint saying that she had unsafe working conditions, and she really wanted accommodations so she could teach her classes online. But her lawsuit says that no suggestions were given to address her safety concerns, and she must continue teaching in person. And then on January 15th, she received a letter from MSU determining her termination.
Of course. See, I'm not surprised. This is a personal attack towards the BCS program.
Ooh.
Because they are garbage. They just put out something recently trying to make themselves look super great and nice and stuff, but they are not a good program. And their professors really just don't care about their students at all. And don't prepare them for the world.
Ooh.
So, don't send your kid here if you're thinking that. Go somewhere else.
Wow.
Because my brother has gone through the program, and he'll tell it to you even. But it's just not worth it. They could definitely do better. Because they have architects teaching BCS, and it's not the same type of thing. The only professor they had that was actually a BCS person, they fired. So,
Wow.
And that wasn't her.
Oh.
That was a different one.
Ooh, firings in the
Yeah.
BCS
Also,
department.
the dean he's leaving too. So,
Oh,
for BCS.
wow.
So there's lots of going on in BCS right now.
Yeah, and
Despite
then
their little funky little video.
interesting. And then Sid Salter, MSU Chief of Communications, said there's no comment from the university because the litigation is still pending.
Yeah, we're not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically just what you do.
Yeah.
But on that note, that's all for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Josh for coming on our show.
Absolutely. I very much hope I get invited back again, especially because you guys have a film review, and like that's all I do is I just watch like everything under the sun. And
Join
back.
the club, Josh.
Shout out Magnolia Film Festival, February 24th to the 26th. Everybody in Starkville should go. It's going to be a really great time. It's actually the reason I came to Mississippi State.
What?
Yeah, it's the reason I came to Mississippi State. So 2020 February, before the world went crazy, a buddy of mine and I, who went to community college together, he was like, "Hey, we should go to this film festival in Starkville. It's Magnolia Film Fest. We had some friends up here." I was like, "Sure." I grew up an Ole Miss fan, so it was kind of a like, I'm going to the aforementioned Starkville.
Oh yeah, enemy territory.
And then I came here, went to the film festival. I was like, this is kind of a cool town. Ate at Stromboli's, said, this is where I'm coming. Came.
Wow.
No tour or anything. So I guess if any Mississippi State faculty, admissions, any of you guys are listening, you should just take all the people to Stromboli's. And you'll probably get everyone to come here.
And the film festival.
Yeah, and the film festival. I mean, that's just the secret. It gave me not a school, because I knew Mississippi State was a good school, obviously, but it gave me an option to see the city and to see the culture and to see the town. And I think that's what ultimately I was like, I could do this. I could come here. So yeah,
Very cool. And
there
Chris,
you go, MSU marketing.
Yeah, there you go. And Chris Mission, he was one of my professors, and he is the director.
He's great.
He's great. And also make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so that we can hear some feedback from you guys, as always.
Y'all know we're on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok at On The Scene Pod.
Also, Josh, you can plug your social media if you want to.
Oh, you guys can follow me at josh._.riggs on Instagram. Just feel free to, because you'll see the wonderful working life of mine. And Emma and I are both in Prism together, the public relations firm on campus, so you'll probably see us together at some point again.
Yeah.
And for my film reviews, if you all really want it. I'll start a podcast on just film. You're welcome.
There you go. Also, make sure to email us onthescenepod@gmail.com for any questions, comments, hot takes, or if you'd like to be a sponsor. And you can also share this episode to your stories if you're listening.
Please do, because we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, we do.
So, are we from the Reflector or something?
We just like snuck into the office at night on a Sunday.
Yeah, we're currently in the Reflector office. Unfortunately, we don't have the camera on right now, so you can't see that. But we'll show it to y'all eventually. It's got some sick renovations.
Yes.
So, yeah. Remember to follow us on that.
Yeah, I was like, are you going somewhere?
I didn't know if you were going to say it or not. So Reflector-Online is the website, and then Reflector Online is our handle for social media.
And that's all from us. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.